The federal government has consistently maintained that the way out of this quagmire, this crisis, is the idea of cattle colonies. Do you share this view?
Yes. Given the frequency of this problem and also given the kind of distress it is causing to the entire system, any responsible administration must have to find ways and means of stamping or stemming this kind of crisis. And I think it's quite a wise decision by the federal government to propose the issue of cattle colony. Maybe.
But when we consider the fact that you've earlier admitted that these are bandits, so who is the federal government setting up the cattle colonies for? Is it for these bandits?
No, you cannot substitute herdsmen with bandits.
No, you said
there
is a level that there are two categories.
Yes.
The bandits and the normal herdsmen.
No, the federal government has nothing to do. I'm not holding brief for the federal government, but if you look at the intention and motive for the creation of cattle colonies, it's not to give freedom or leverage to bandits, but to give leverage to herdsmen.
No, I would really like to understand this now, because the kind of killings that we've been talking about is the one unleashed by the second category of the herdsmen, which you labeled bandits.
Sure.
And now, if the federal government is thinking out the solution out of this crisis and coming up with the idea of cattle colonies, it's not to address the normal herdsmen movement within your region. The aim is to address the second category that have deployed sophisticated weaponry in their killings, which is the group you labeled bandits. So now I'm now asking the question, who is the federal government setting up this cattle colonies for? Is it the bandits?
You see, it's so unfortunate that the activities of bandits and these criminal militants is now stigmatizing virtually every herdsman. And you cannot just generalize that every herdsman is a bandit. And when the federal government thought of the idea of creating cattle colonies, I'm sure the motive, the intention, is not to give the bandits any leverage, but to protect the traditional, normal, and law-abiding herdsmen to be able to do their vocation without any hindrances and also contribute to the economic growth of the country. I believe if this issue of cattle colonies takes off, the pressure and the frequency of this kind of crisis is likely going to drastically reduce.
It's time we shift politics from governance now, and that has to do with the reaction, the prompt reaction of the federal government to some of these challenges now. Because in a couple of days in Nasarawa and Benue states now, the killings might have been in hundreds, but when we look at the repercussion of these killings, the panic migration, the rising speed of the internally displaced, this is rising to thousands. As a matter of fact, we have reports, very scary reports, that it's risen up to 25,000 in your state alone. So how are you dealing with this overlapping crisis from the herdsmen crisis, which is centered on panic migration, and the rise of the IDPs up to 25,000?
It's unfortunate, like I told you, we are a victim of circumstances. We never had any, we never conceived of any anti-crazy law. But we have to be our brother's keepers. The people that are coming as a result of panic migration and movement, quite a number of them are from Nasarawa State. Some are from Benue State. We can't but give them some relief, some care and succor by giving them relief materials, providing for their accommodation and also medical services. while also working towards ensuring the security of the area so that they can return. But one question that really is of great concern is the issue of the pressure of the preponderance and explosion of herdsmen from Benue to Nasarawa State. This is causing us sleepless nights. And in spite of our efforts to provide IDPs and provide ways and means to regulate their movement, we are also thinking of one idea very, very quickly to complement the cattle colonies. Nasarawa State has just had a security meeting 2 days ago, and part of the decision we have taken is to ensure that the grazing reserves that had been there for decades, and these were areas that were dedicated for rearing cattle, should be left for the herdsmen to do their business there. So this is even beyond the cattle colonies. Our initiative in Nasarawa State is to ensure that all forest reserves, and they are quite enormous in virtually every local government, that have been encroached upon by farmers, by certain buildings, by certain developments. We are now going back to recoup and recover them and deploy such cattle forest reserve specifically for rearing, because in the cattle in the forest reserve, it had been a rule in the northern Nigerian government that nobody had the right to go into that place to farm, to build, or even to go hunting. Okay. But one thing that we are also adding to that is that we have a mechanism in place, what we call community-based conflict resolution mechanism in Nasarawa State. That's why in the past 2 years, we have not had so much challenge with regard to farmers' herdsman crisis, because we have committees, a pyramid of committees, from the hamlets, the compounds, the wards, the development areas, the local government, and the apex in the state. In each of these committees, we have representatives of the police, the SS, the representative of the farmers, the herdsmen, the youth leaders, who would sit and determine any violation by either a herdsman or a farmer.
Now let's come to the recent visit of Mr. President to Nasarawa State. That was seen as a very bold move, as a matter of fact, a highly symbolic gesture. And one of the fallout from that visit was this riot act that anyone in possession, caught in possession of illegal arms, will be prosecuted. Does that bring solution to the crisis on ground? Is that enough? Do you think that would bring a change to the reality on ground, to the unabated killings?
Very much, very, very much. The mere proclamation alone would sanitize that environment, not to talk of actual practical deployment, which has already commenced. So I believe the Riot Act, which Mr. President has sent during his visit to Nasarawa State, to ensure that military operatives go to all these places and give security as much as they can and arrest whoever, whether herdsman or farmer or militant or guards, who is holding any weapon without permission, should be arrested. I think this will send signals to bandits. This will send signal to gun runners. This will send signal even to government operatives who are using certain number of people by the name of guards or something, and holding sophisticated weapons that are meant for nominal and conventional security operatives.
Your Excellency, the Executive Governor of Nasarawa State, Alhaji Umaru Tanko Al-Makura, thank you so much for making our time to be part of this episode of Question Time. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Benga. It's a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
And that's it on this episode of Question Time from Channels Television. What's your take on the way the federal government is handling the herdsmen crisis? Send us a comment on our social media platforms. Join us next week for a fresh episode of the show. Many thanks for watching. I'm Benga Ashuru. Bye for now.